Hi, I'm Jazz Obrecht, and welcome to my Talking Guitar podcast. I'm really happy to be sharing this interview with Steve Vai. I consider Steve to be one of the most innovative and skilled guitarists to come out of the 20th century. As you'll hear, he's extremely articulate, he has an incandescent mind, and he is just a delight to speak with. A bit of background. In 1986, I'd interviewed Steve for his first Guitar Player magazine cover story. That conversation took place in Vai's Blue Stucco studio, which was housed in a building next to his home in the California countryside. I remember there was a horse out in the field nearby. Steve references this studio several times during the conversation you're about to hear. Our second major interview, the one that's this podcast, took place on February 16th, 1988. It was timed to coincide with the release of David Lee Roth's second full-length post-Van Halen album, Skyscraper. In addition to Dave and Steve, who composed most of the songs, the LP features bass great Billy Sheehan, Greg Bissonette on drums, and Brent Tuggle on keyboards. Steve and I agreed in advance to do a track-by-track tour of the record. As we cover the songs, he provides a wealth of details about specific parts, his creative process and recording strategies, his guitars, amps, and other equipment, and how he and Dave wrote songs. A quick clarification before we roll the tape. At the very end of the interview, Steve mentions that he just found his first ever guitar recording. The Joe he speaks about in this part is Joe Satriani, who'd been Steve's original guitar teacher. Anyway, here are Steve's Skyscraper secrets. I hope you enjoy them.
Hello?
Hey, it's Steve there.
This is he? Who's this?
Jazz Obrecht.
Hi, Jazz. How you doing?
Good, Steve. How you doing?
Great. Listen, I'm sorry. I thought my interview was at 2:30.
Oh, you want me to call you back?
No, not at all. I'm ready. I was just in another room. I wasn't going to come in here till later. I'm sorry that you... Did you try to call?
Yeah,
Oh,
I left a
okay.
message on.
Sorry about that.
You ready to go?
Yeah, sure.
Hey, how finished was the music when you gave it to Dave for the new album?
Well, what had happened was we'd put together ideas, and we'd go to the basement, and we'd all work on the stuff until it sounded like what we wanted, and then we demoed it.
Well, like with a song like a Skyscraper or The Bottom Line, did you come in with chords or?
Okay, well, Skyscraper, the song was done. You know, that song was pretty much done, except for the intro, you know, the keyboard intro thing. But the rest of the song stayed pretty much intact the way I wrote it. The Bottom Line was exactly the way it was, except there was parts that were switched around a bit, like the intro melody. That was originally only happened once in the song, and it happened in the middle, and it was just it wasn't in harmony. And Dave liked it, and moved it to the beginning of the song, and then it appeared in both places. When
you said the song was done, does that mean that you had a finished demo tape?
Well, what had happened was with something like Skyscraper, that was a song that I didn't think Dave would like at all. I didn't think that he'd want to play it because it was very much different than what I thought he'd be interested in. And I started playing it for the guys in rehearsal and showing them the parts, and Dave said he liked it, and we kind of got it to where it was sounding like it does, and then in the studio, I put all the keyboards on it and all the finishing keyboard touches and all. I did. No, I didn't. I didn't. I'm sorry. The keyboard player did.
That song was pretty vocally adventurous for Dave.
Yes. Now the vocals, Dave wrote all the vocals for it.
Well, let's go to the beginning. We want to do like a track-by-track playback of this. Did Tom explain that?
Sure. No, but that's no problem.
Was it any different working with a keyboardist so much on this project? Did it change your role at all?
Well, when I was in the studio with Brett, when we were doing the demos, well, I'm sorry. Let me ask you this: in what way? What do you mean? Does it change?
I just wondered if you had any general observations on if you had to lay back more?
Oh, no, not at all. I really like orchestrating with a keyboard. You know, it in the right spots, it really enhances the melodies and the chord changes. And I don't have to lay back at all because the guitar in a band like this is more predominant than the keyboards. And as a matter of fact, a song like Skyscraper had heavy guitar in the verses.
Really?
And we took it out. It was real heavy, and we took it out because we were feeling that, you know, there was just, the whole album started to sound like a wall of guitars.
You had that really nice rhythm part in it that sounded sort of like a strat through a stereo chorus or something?
Oh, yeah, that's what that is. It's a 12-string and also a 6-string, and they're processed differently.
12-string electric?
12-string electric, I believe it's a, I used a bitch, a BC Rich double neck.
Really?
Yeah, and it's in stereo, and I went direct into the console, and then I also went to an amplifier and split it, and, you know, put a little delay between them, and then sweetened them with all sorts of weird things.
Is Stucco Blue Studio your studio?
Yes.
That's the one where I interviewed you?
Yep.
All right.
We did all the guitars in that studio.
Really?
Yeah, remember that place?
Sure.
Yeah, I tried setting up in some of the best studios in town my guitars, and I couldn't get the sound. You know, the sound wasn't nearly as good as what I got on the demos.
That's strange.
So we ended up going back into Stucco Blue and cutting all the guitars, every guitar.
Why do you think that was?
Because when I was sitting and doing the demos, I really know that studio real well, and I've worked in there enough to where I know exactly how to get the sound that I want. You know, and we didn't use very expensive equipment. You know, when we did use expensive equipment in Stucco Blue, it didn't sound quite as good as when I just went through the Soundcraft console. I mean, I tried API preamps, I tried Massenburg preamps with Massenburg EQs, but it's just, if you get to know a console, you know what EQ to turn to make it sound exactly the way you want it. So, you know, all due respect to the engineers we used, they don't really know what I want as much as I know what I wanted out of the guitar, what Dave wanted.
Do you have a basic setup for the Steve Vai sound and tweeze it for a particular application, or do you start from the ground up with each sound you hear in your head?
I start from the ground up.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, basic mic placements have a lot to do with it, too. You know, for this record, I went for the very dry, dead room with close miking, because then when you affect it, the effects take a lot better than if you use a big room. I mean, this is just personal taste, but I feel big wooden rooms for guitars mush the sound up, and, you know, the bottom end starts reverberating all over the place. And you'd be surprised how much microphone placement has to do with your sound. I mean, if you mic your lower speakers in the lower part of the cabinet and the lower part of the speaker, you're going to be hitting a lot of bottom end off of the floor unless you put it up on a crate. And then if you put it up on a crate, it's going to reverberate differently. And if you put it on a carpet or on a wooden floor, it sounds different. And I hate the sound of a wooden floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the microphone sitting on a wooden floor. So I mic the upper cabinet, I leave it on the floor, the cabinet on the floor, and I mic close mic at about 10 o'clock on the cabinet, on the top speaker.
On the top speaker.
Yeah, and I tried every mic, but believe it or not, you know, the old 57 is the one that sounds the best.
SM57.
Yeah, SM57, and my favorite sound is going into a Neve preamp, but what had happened was I had these Massenburg preamps that were kind of nice too that I started using on the guitar. And on each song, there's a different preamp, and you can hear it. You know, like I used the Massenburg on Knucklebones, and I thought it was a little mushy. But on Perfect Timing, I used the Soundcraft, and that's my favorite tone. The guitar tone on the record is on Perfect Timing.
Really?
Yeah, because it's just so heavy. I mean, as far as a heavy guitar tone, you know, it sounds very heavy. And
yeah, it's almost like a AC/DC sounding.
Yeah.
Full and distorted. Was that just unprocessed guitar?
Well, it's processed a little bit. You know, it's the setup we just talked about through the Soundcraft with just a little bit of SDE 3000 on it. And then a little bit of, like Lexicon 480L or something for reverb.
What kind of speakers are you using?
30-watt Celestians.
Are you still a carbon guy?
I don't use the carbon cabinets, no. I have Marshall cabinets.
As far as the amps?
No. I use Marshall. I use bored-out Marshall cabinets. Marshall heads that are custom modded for me, and I use carbon power amps to power them.
Oh, I see.
So I take a direct line output out of the Marshall head, and I go into the effects rack, and then I go out of the effects rack into like a carbon power amp or a Yamaha power amp, according to which cabinets I'm powering.
Yeah.
And they sound pretty good for that.
Did you use a variety of guitars for your electric parts?
Well, a lot of the solos on the record, about half the solos on the record, are flown in from the demos. I flew them in right off of the demos onto the masters.
In other words, you didn't retake them, you just lifted them and put them on?
Right. Because what had happened was, when I did the demos, I did them very, very fast. I just threw the solos on there basically to have something on there.
Mm-hmm.
And you listen to the demos a lot and you get very used to what's on them. You listen to something enough times, it starts to grow on you and you like it. So, most of the solos that were on the demo started growing on Dave and everybody. So what I just did was I just transferred them right into the masters.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Could you give me some examples of those?
Sure. Stand-up.
Uh-huh.
The solo in stand-up is flown right in off the master, and Hot Dog and a Shake, the whole solo. All the parts of it, the quick part, the long notes. It was a little tricky, too, because on that one, I recorded it on a 3M that was running just a hair under speed, and then I had to, when we were re-recording, the machine that I was bouncing it onto was an Otari, and, I had to compensate a little bit with pitch and VSOs, so it gets a little pitchy now and then.
Now, with Hot Dog and a Shake, when you're playing it, when you're going up for fills, the rhythm drops out, which suggests that you did all that on one track?
Oh, yeah, I did.
Oh, yeah, that's good. It gives it a more alive and exciting sound, it seems.
Yeah, I like that much better. But you'd be surprised how layered Hot Dog and a Shake is.
Really?
Yeah, it's a very layered track.
Huh.
There's a lot of stuff going on, but for instance, it starts out with 2 tracks, a stereo guitar, doubled, and then it goes into one mono track for the verse. Right. And the B section is 2 tracks of a stereo chorus guitar, and these are all separate tracks. And then when it goes back into the chorus, the B section guitar still goes, doubling the bass line, and then the 2 cleaner guitars come on top, doubled, and they're playing the riff, that thing there. And then it goes to back to the verse, and then the solo section was kind of like just done. That was like a demo thing, and I just did that, and everybody liked it, so I ended up flying it back into the master.
There was a real interesting point in that solo where you just kind of stopped. It comes to an abrupt halt for a second.
Yeah.
Was that planned out?
Yeah. Well, actually, the way that turned out was kind of funny. I was doing the solo, and I started it, and I didn't like what I was playing, and I was going to stop and do it again. And I was a little frustrated, and I just whipped, I was just playing, and I whipped, and then in a split second I decided, look, this is the demo. Just get it all, let's just do it. It doesn't, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I just continued to play.
Uh-huh.
And listening back, I thought, hey, well, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of emotional too,
Yeah.
It's there, exactly the way I was feeling is there. I started the solo, and I started, doing the fast lick, and I'm whipping. I'm saying, oh, I'm just wanking off with this fast lick stuff, And I just stopped.
Yeah.
And I said, who cares? All in a split second, And
That's
I
great.
just continued the lick and finished the solo, and, you never know with these things. That's what's on the record.
Did you use a wah-wah pedal to open up that note at the beginning of the solo?
Uh-huh.
That's cool. Now, for the feedback where you sustain that one part, is that from standing in front of an amp or with a processor?
Yeah, I went into the studio for that.
Uh-huh.
Most of that, all that stuff, that solo stuff, I sat by myself in the studio and punched myself in with a punch-in foot switch.
No kidding.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Wow.
I just sat by myself in front of the console, EQ'd all the guitars myself, and just sat and punched myself in. Now, this was for the demo stuff, you know?
Right.
And then for that note, I actually had my girlfriend punch me in. You know, I called her out of the house. I said, "Come here, just start this lick here. You know, I want to get this thing started." And I walked into the studio. I left the door open, started the lick, and then just walked back into the other part of the studio and sat down and finished doing the solo.
No kidding.
Yeah. And what I decided to do with that first note was I just said, well, I'm just going to hit one note. I'm not going to try to do anything with it. I'm just going to let it ring out, and whatever happens, happens. You know.
Cool.
So I kind of had the wah-wah going. And
do you do finger taps in that solo?
Oh yeah, the whole fast part is all crawling down the neck with two hands.
Is there a point in the beginning before the solo where there's a speeded up lick?
What do you mean by? You mean VSO?
In Hot Dog and the Shake, is there there's one little lick that almost sounds like it's too fast for someone to play.
Which part is that?
It's sort of in the beginning. It's just a little fill that goes by in an instant.
No, absolutely not. There's nothing VSO'd on the guitar parts in this entire record.
Now, at the end of the solo for Hot Dog and a Shake, is that
I know what part you're talking about.
Yeah.
No, what I did was I bent the bar down, did a trill, and pulled up on the bar.
Oh, really?
Yeah, while I did the trill, and then stretched a note. I know what part you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the end of that solo harmonized or double-tracked?
All double-tracked, no harmonized, no harmonized. It was double-tracked in harmony.
Yeah.
I didn't use a harmonizer.
Did you use a slide guitar in stand-up for a little fill?
No.
It almost sounds like something out of Beck's Bolero.
Yeah, I used a wrench.
A wrench?
Yeah. You know the little tune-up wrenches for the Floyd Roses?
Yeah, yeah.
It was just sitting on the console, and I grabbed it and tweaked the guitar with it as I was playing.
Oh, you hit the strings with it?
Yeah. That was a weird solo, that whole stand-up thing, because it was weird because at the time I was doing that solo, I don't remember doing the solo or even doing it, because what had happened was when we were on tour, I kind of tweaked my neck out.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of pinched this nerve in my neck, and it got pretty painful. When we got off tour, it was getting worse. So I decided I should go see a doctor or something. You know, I tried everything. I went to chiropractors and everything. So, and I don't take any drugs, but he gave me these painkillers. And I don't, you know, I would normally never take painkillers or anything. I think it was Percodan. I wouldn't mention that in the article.
Okay.
I'll have kids going out and taking Percodan. But it was a Class A narcotic, you know. And I had to take it this one night just so I can get through the solo, you know, because it was in such pain. So I take this pill, and I felt like my whole body was encased in cotton. You know?
I know the feeling.
Yeah, and I go out there to the studio, bumping into stuff and not even feeling it. I picked up my guitar and just laid the solo down.
Wow.
And it was like I didn't even feel the guitar when I was playing it. It was just like I was listening to the speakers and it was coming out.
That's trippy.
And it's kind of weird because there's stuff in there that's a little pitchy, you know, it's like it goes a little sharp and whatever.
The end of the solo almost sounds kind of random, you know?
Well, it kind of was, you know.
Yeah.
It's a lick that I do, you know, it's like a chromatic ascending lick with an open string in it. You
Yeah.
know, some open strings. I mean, it wasn't a haphazard lick. It was kind of thought out to a degree, you know.
In that solo, there's a part where an echo comes in for one part and then sort of sends off a cascade of notes.
Right.
Is that something that you plan in advance, or do you take a solo track and decide afterwards to add something in the mix?
In that particular instance, I decided to do that afterwards because that note was a little out of tune, and it drove me crazy every time I heard it.
Oh.
I never expected to keep the solo, but it just was something just kind of that I liked about it. We all liked. Dave liked it, and, you know, everybody kind of liked it. If you listen to it, you know, harmonically, the beginning part of the solo, the melody that I'm playing with the double stops, it really creates an exotic tension against the chord changes. You know, it's like D Dorian, and it's like all the out notes. But it seems to work for me, you know. And I didn't want to lose that solo. Plus, it was a funny memory. And but there was parts of it that are a little pitchy, you know. So I nailed it with an echo.
The second break almost sounds like you're playing a guitar synth. Your tone is so different.
Which break is
and
that?
Stand Up.
Yeah, which break?
This, not the main one.
Oh, I know which part. Yeah, when right before the solo.
Right.
When it's that weird feedbacky type stuff.
Right.
Yeah, right. I know. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, it almost sounds like a Roland or something. You know?
Yeah, it does sound pretty weird.
Huh.
Must have been the Percodan.
No, and is it called Hina? Hina. That's almost a Hendrix-like tune with its psychedelic panning effects and all that.
Yeah, it's very Hendrix-X.
Did you have really a hand in that swirl of sound?
Well, I did it was funny. It was really great mixing that because I did the panning on the guitar solo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Dave was panning his vocal scats. So we were like having this little pan party. Yeah.
It's really hip the way you have the two parts working back and forth.
Yeah, it was great. It's like it's the closest you get to playing a gig in the studio.
Oh, really?
When you're mixing,
Because you're playing back to yourself.
Yeah, we were panning each other's parts, or we were panning the respective parts and having this little game of tennis between ourselves, with the stereo bus.
Does that song start with your right hand tapping out a pattern?
Yeah, I'm just like fretting a D2 chord and just tapping it out, and it's all one guitar through that entire song. Yeah, it's a left and right echoing feel.
And Two Fools a Minute, do you pluck that real nice opening part?
The opening part?
It's sort of a funky blues.
No, that's being picked, I believe. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
The bass part's real fine too.
Yeah, I thought he did a great job on that.
Now, you wrote the horn arrangement?
Uh-huh.
What did that entail?
Well, I didn't have much time to do it. I did the whole horn arrangement in about an hour and a half, and we hired 4 guys to come in, and I doubled their parts. Some parts, they go in and out of harmony and whatnot, and that's how that happened.
I remember you telling me about, was it a Frank Sinatra album? So you said was as heavy metal?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that sort of came to mind when I heard that, because it's pretty powerful,
It is. There's high energy in horns.
Yeah. For knuckle bones, that cool break you have there, is that played with finger style?
Yeah, I did that with my fingers, a la Ry Cooder, quick picking, fun strumming, chicken plucking.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is that something you picked up watching him?
Well, not really, but it's something that was inspired by the way he plays. I didn't pick up the style from him.
Right.
I didn't see him do that. What I'm doing there is very simple. I'm just plucking the strings and stretching them, But the whole concept behind it is kind of Ry Cooder-ish.
Did you harmonize the part that happens after that?
Yeah. It's a doubled solo all the way until the last fast lick, and it goes to a harmony.
So you doubled it with another guitar instead of a device?
Right, yeah. There's no real harmonization devices except for in the bottom line. Yeah.
Do you need to pick up that call that's clicking on?
Nah.
Okay, we're almost there. In the song Just Like Paradise, that starts off and it seems like a real conventional tune, and yet you make it unconventional by giving it these bizarre twists.
Yeah, I can't help it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
As the solo starts, are you smacking the whammy as you play or putting your palm on it to give it that sort of off-kilter sound?
Right before the solo? Yeah, you twang it, you pull it down and you let it go, and it vibrates real quick.
How many guitars are in the opening build-up for that song at the beginning?
The melody?
Yeah.
It's a tripled guitar part with a rhythm guitar underneath it.
I thought that solo was real interesting. Wheeler did too. He mentioned it sounded murky and almost it's kind of murky and atmospheric rather than a hard-hitting melody, which was an interesting way to do it.
Yeah, I originally had a different concept for that, but ended up going with what I did on the demo.
Really?
Yeah, I was originally going to have 2 guitars trading off from each other. Where one would play a lick and the other would play a lick and the other would play a lick, and they'd, whatever note they ended on would be the harmony for the first note of the other guitar when it started. And when I was doing the demo, the quickest thing that I can do to get the cheapest sort of representation of that idea was to just do the echoing that's on there. And everybody ended up liking that, so we used that.
And for the bottom line, what's going on at the start of the solo? Is that speeded up or?
You mean the tom-toms?
Yeah.
Yeah, what that is, it's VSO toms. That's only 2 tom-toms that he's using through the whole thing, basically. And,
really?
Yeah, and it's pretty complicated setup because it's 6 tracks of toms. They're doubled left and right, and after each 6 notes, we'd stop the tape. You know, he'd hit 3 notes on one tom and 3 notes on another tom. We'd go back and double that, and we go to another 2 tracks and VSO the tape a little bit, and then do 3 notes on one tom and 3 notes on another tom, then double that, and then go back to the other 2 tracks, or another 2 tracks. You know, it ended up, I think it's like 6 tracks in all, and it just climbs until your hearing at the end is actually like a big tom sounding like a little peanut.
Cool. It sounds like someone's hitting the bass with drumsticks or something too.
The bass what? Guitar?
Yeah. No, the bass part itself is so percussive on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nobody hitting it with a drumstick though.
What kind of chords do you use to end the bottom line? Right before the whammy rave up.
Okay, well, it's basically 1 chord fingering, and the fingering is what would you call it? It's sort of like a 2 chord with the 5th in the root. You know, if I was doing it with D in the root, the voicing would be D, G, D, A. D on the A string, G on the D string, a D on the B string, and then A on the E string. And that structure just moves across the neck, you know, and then at the end it's like a B flat over G. You know, the final chord has got a B flat and an F and an E flat in it over a G chord or a G note, and that's what causes all the tension.
How many whammies do you have going there at the end?
There's just 2.
2? Boy, it sounds like more almost.
Yeah. It was fun part there.
I'll bet it was fun doing Damn Good.
It was great. It was a real magic thing because it was the last song added to the record, you know, and what had happened was I wrote that song long ago when I was about 14 or something.
Really?
Yeah, it's a real old song.
Did you have different words for it?
Well, when I say I wrote the songs on this record, I didn't write the lyrics.
No, but I remember you writing songs with lyrics way back when.
Oh, yeah, I have lyrics to songs, yeah.
And I wondered if this was a song where you had already written lyrics, but you just showed Dave the music and he came up with new ones.
No, this I didn't. It was called Scandinavian Air Solo.
Really?
Yeah, because it reminded me of, that's the name that it required later on, because it reminded me of Denmark, you know, and Scandinavian countries in the winter when I was up there. And it had a very airy type of a chord. You know, the chord sounded very reminiscent of that part of the earth, I guess. And it was sort of like a solo, too, because it was just a little guitar solo. And what had happened was Dave approached me about doing a guitar solo on the record, doing a acoustic guitar solo.
Wow.
And I said, I'd love to, you know, and I was going to start it out with this chord, you know, the da-da-da-bum, pling. That's how I was going to start the solo, and then I was going to just go on to something else. And I said, here, check this out. And he goes, oh, that's a great little part in the beginning. I said, well, I have a whole song around this. And I go, here, I'll play it for you. And I played him the whole song. And he said, play it again, I'll sing you the words.
No kidding.
Yeah. And this was when we were done recording, basically.
Wow.
And we were talking, we said, hey, you know, what do you say? Let's go for it.
Now,
so instead of having a guitar solo on the album, we ended up with that song, which I'm very happy about.
Sure.
Too, you know. And, you know, we recorded that, and it was the last guitars that I recorded in stucco blue. And I remember sitting there in the room, you know, and the lights were real low, and I'm sitting there playing the guitar part. It was 3 or 4 in the morning. And, you know, when you're making a record, your deadlines are ridiculous sometimes. So
yeah.
I had to get finished. We were on the last sitar part or something. And that was it. The studio is coming down now.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, it's gone.
You moving?
I moved.
Oh. Yeah, there were kids coming by when I was there. I remember.
I couldn't really stay there anymore.
Yeah. So that was the last track, huh?
Yeah, that was the last track and last anything recorded in stucco blue.
Oh, end of an era.
Yeah.
What kind of 12-string was that?
So there's a lot of guitars on that track. The main rhythm part consists of 2 6-strings, a 12-string at half speed, so it's a double speed.
Right.
Actually, two 12-strings at half speed, both playing sort of different parts. An electric 6-string, direct into the console, a choral sitar, and a half-speed 6-string.
What kind of acoustics were you using?
Guild.
Really?
Yeah.
Were the 12-strings guilds?
Yes.
So were these must have been mic'd?
They were mic'd. I didn't really like the sound of the way they are electric. I mean, they do have a pickup in them, but you know, usually they don't sound very true to a acoustic guitar.
Was that open-tuned guitars at all?
No, just low D string tuning.
Drop D.
Uh-huh.
Did you finger pick that?
No. There's this little thing that I do that's both. You know, I hold the pick with 2 fingers and I finger pick with the other fingers.
The solo fills have a backwards sort of guitar?
Yeah, what that is it's a half-speed 12-string on the melody,
right.
A choral sitar, and then I took the melody and wrote it down in manuscript form, notation, and then wrote it down backwards.
Oh, man.
And learned it backwards, and then flipped the tape.
Right.
And played along with the melody backwards
uh-huh.
with the forwards guitar. And then flipped the tape back over again, and here you've got the melody coming out backwards, but it's sounding forward.
No one could ever fault Dave for not giving you enough room to express yourselves.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. He never would do that. He never, you know, it's not... He's very happy that, to do that. You know, he loves the way the guitar sounds. He loves guitar in general, and he's a big fan. He's one of my biggest fans, you know.
I can see why. Do you anticipate any changes in the band's dynamics now that Billy's departed?
Dynamics in what respect?
Well, just how's it going to change things for you? Are you going to have to do more playing, or?
I won't have to do more playing, but I will.
Let's face it. You had one of the greatest bassists in the world.
Yeah, and I'm gonna miss not playing with him. I enjoyed playing with Billy very much, and you know what he's doing right now on the bass, and what I've seen him do that people don't even see him do, which is unfortunate, is beyond what I've really seen anybody else do, and I really don't know anybody that's doing what he's doing, and for that reason, maybe that he's not in the band is better for him, or I don't know, but I just know that. The band now is different.
Can Matt play in a similar vein?
Matt plays with a certain intensity that is of his own direction. It's not like what Billy does. Matt's an incredible musician, and I was surprised to see 2 guys who were brothers from the same family actually, in my opinion, good, great musicians, because it's rare. I don't want to sound like an egomaniac, and I don't want to come off being weird or anything, but I don't really know many great musicians that I think are really fine. Do know a lot of them, but guys that I work with, and to find 2 of them in the same family is pretty rare, and they hit it off together. The thing that makes them great, and the thing that makes them that makes the band speak, and that is pulling us through, is that the way they work together, and the bond that they have together, and and the groove that they create. They've always played together their whole life, and that's the special thing in the band now. Before mean, as far as, when I say special thing, I mean, you know, little musicality trick.
I remember Eddie and Alex talking about having that sometimes.
Yeah, there's something there, you know.
An extra communication.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
interesting. I think everybody has that with their family.
Yeah.
You know, I feel that, you know, with my brothers and sisters, but it's, when you're creating something with them, it's different, you know. With, you know, with Bill, there was something special there.
Yeah.
You know, and nobody could deny that. And, you know...
Well, you know, you had a guy there who could kick your ass.
Yeah.
Or get you to kick into the next level, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And now, you know, I think that there's still a... if we would have just gotten anybody, I think that... well, I don't know, because I don't know who we could have gotten. Who, you know, what would have happened if we would have gotten just anybody.
Were there auditions?
No. No. It just turned out that way.
Before we wind up, I do have to get back to the album for one last thing.
Sure.
What guitars did you mostly do this with? Did you use a Gem 777 or the lime green?
No, I used the Gem for most of it, but on the songs that, when I did the demos, and, well, when I did the demos, I didn't have the Gem guitars, and I used a Tom Anderson guitar. Tom Anderson is a guitar builder here, where he...
Yeah, the Guitar Works?
Excuse me?
Tom Anderson Guitar Works was the name of his company for a while.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but probably, yeah. From what I understand, he was working with Kramer for a while. I don't know if he's still working with them now, but he's a real fine guitar builder. He builds custom guitars, and he built me this guitar, and it was a great guitar.
What is it? A Strat style?
Sort of, yeah. It's sort of like the Gem guitars, but not quite. And I used it a little bit on the road last year, but it was too bottom-endy. You know, it's the wood, or just, you know, the way the guitar is built, it has a lot of bottom to it.
Right.
And a little too much for live playing. But in the studio, it was good. And the Gem guitars, I don't know what I did without them all these years.
Really?
Now that I've got them live.
Is a Steve Vai 777 the same as an off-the-shelf one?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Well, the model number, yeah.
Do you do anything special to yours that...
No, the guitars that I use are exactly like the ones right off the shelf. That was the concept behind doing the deal with Ibanez. I wanted a guitar that was suited to me, that I had all my little ideas about, and all the little idiosyncrasies about, having 24 frets and having it dug out so the Floyd is recessed in the body, and, being able to pull up on the bar and not having it go out of tune when you rest your wrist on it, and having the volume pots in a certain place, and being able to reach way high up with a cutout, and having the handle, all the little things that the guitar has. And I asked Ibanez if they, would build me one. I went to many, a bunch of different companies approached me, and, all good companies, but nobody really delivered exactly what I wanted, and they did.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and I told them, and then we talked about, having mass producing it for the world if they want it. And, I didn't want to put my name on the guitar, a Steve Vai guitar, because, buy a Steve Vai guitar, what is it going to be in, 20 years? It's better
you
off.
You never know.
What?
You never know.
You never know. But it's better off that the guitar actually speaks for itself. And I think that the guitar is a very fine guitar, and it'll transcend my popularity as a guitarist, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, when I, as time goes on or whatever, and other great guitar players come along, I don't think the guitar will die out, so to speak, because
right.
It's a good guitar and it should live on. And,
that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Huh. Do you still go through whammies as fast?
Well, they have a different bar. That's something I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
I read an interview where I think it was a guitar player. I don't destroy the metal on the bar or anything. What happens is where the bar meets the screw that goes into the body, if it even gets worn down a little bit, the guitar won't stay in tune. It gets a little chewed up, and that's the problem that I was having.
With the Floyds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with the Floyd, sometimes it's real hard to get a very consistent tension on the bar itself. Like you whammy it enough times, and it's the little thing is stripped, and the bar won't stay with a certain tension. You know, if you put it in one spot, it won't stay there.
Right.
But the Ibanez bars, which are very similar to the Floyd's, have a different type of a whammy bar itself, the way it joins in with the tailpiece, so they don't get destroyed quite as easily. And I still go through them periodically. They don't seem to be as much as before, but then again, I'm not on the road. When I get on the road, we'll see.
Hey, what outside playing have you been doing lately?
None.
There was one album with the question mark we heard, and it was obviously you playing a solo.
Oh, Western Vacation?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, that was Reckless Fable.
Right. Do you want me to not to mention it?
Oh, no, you can mention it.
Oh, great.
But I would kind of allude to the fact that... can you hold 1 second?
Yeah, sure, man.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hi, Jazz.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, maybe allude to the fact that I am actually admitting that I played on it.
Okay. Hey, where should
one other thing I'd like to say about the Gem guitars.
Yeah.
There's a limited amount of green ones made.
Yeah.
There's 777 green ones made, and I signed each one of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Is that my phone again?
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Sorry, Jazz.
That's cool. Hey, I think we're done, Steve.
Oh, okay.
Any idea where I should go for photos? Call the office?
Yeah, or it's Lowe's hour.
Okay, great.
Yeah. One other thing. About that recent Crossroads
Yeah.
thing that was put in.
Right.
I'm wondering if it's possible to let people know that, when I recorded that, it was as a piece of music for a movie, and it had to be played thus, with the movie in mind. And whoever edited it together and put it together, I mean, I feel personally there was better music that could have been put on it. And when the parts that I played on there were purposely played a certain way to coincide with the script, i.e., when Jack Butler loses, which is like, the last lick on the sound sheet. I mean, it's played purposely very sloppy, and it's screwed up at the end, and I thought it was a bad choice of music to put on the sound sheet, because there's some great jams that me and Rye did that were part of that movie that didn't make it, but that's just something.
Okay. I think I should put that in if you want to say it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Nice. All right, Steve. Sorry about that.
No problem. Why? Who edited it?
I don't know, to tell you the truth.
Somebody told me Rye's engineer.
Might have been. Tom Wheeler's the one who put it all together.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it was good, but just, some of the stuff, I just wanted people to understand that it was slapped up for a reason.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, I also enjoyed Amazing Grace.
Oh, thanks.
What a great sound page that was with your buddy on the other side.
Yeah, that I thought that was a good one too.
Well, I hope you two play together sometime on a record.
Well, we do now and then at the NAMM show.
Yeah, but it'd be interesting to hear you on a project together.
Yeah, I'd love that too.
Man, that'd be like Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf.
Yeah, that'd really be nice. Well, one of these days.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I have a tape of me and Joe jamming when I was taking lessons. It was the first time I ever recorded.
Really?
Yeah, and I even remember the progression, and I have the tape around someplace. It was a guitar lesson, and we did a little overdub thing because he had a 2-track. It was really neat.
That's too much.
Yeah, and I also wanted to say to the readers to express my gratitude for being voted favorite guitar player there.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean that, trying to say thanks or even writing a letter in or whatever, just it seems, like it doesn't really show my appreciation, but I'm very grateful for being recognized.
Oh, hey, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to hear you say that.
That's very true.
Yeah, well, you're definitely the cutting-edge guy now, so...
Well, great.
It's well-deserved.
Well, thanks.
All right, Steve.
All right, and if there's anything else, give me a call.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, amigo.
Bye.
Bye.
As I mentioned, Steve and I did another extensive interview 2 years earlier, focused on Dave Lee Roth's Eat 'em and Smile album and Steve's flexible solo projects. If you'd like to hear a podcast of this one, drop me a note in the comments section below. Before signing off, I want to express my thanks to the Southern Folk Life Collection, my podcast producer Nik Hunt, and all the people who hit that donate button. Thank you very much. This podcast is copyright 2025 by Jazz Obrecht, all rights reserved. See you next time.